Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Leah Simpson. This is Homeschool at Heart, and today we're going to be doing a life update video. Alright you guys, this is going to be a different sort of video than I am used to doing. So you can already tell, different setting. This is my bedroom. It's summertime, and so this is the time of year that everybody is home all of the time. So it gets a little bit difficult to find time to fit in filming around here because I don't like to send my kids away or shut them in their room. I also don't like to tell them, constantly be telling them to be quiet and all those kinds of things. So it's a little bit rough around here to find times to film that work with our family schedule. So that is a little bit of the reason why I haven't put out a video for a little while. But another reason is the topic of this video, which you may have noticed from the caption or the title. I have gotten some distressing / interesting news about my health, in that I have received a diagnosis of a rare brain condition, and I'm going to be talking about that in this video. So if that's not something you're interested in, then you can go ahead and skip this one. There's lots of content that is related to homeschooling and all of those things, which is what this channel is all about. But for the friends and family who watch this channel for family related updates and things like that, this video is for you. Also, if you already know a lot of this information because you know me in person, and I'm gonna be telling this story in its totality in this video because this disease needs some awareness raised for it because it is in fact rare. So I'm gonna be telling my entire IIH story here in a few minutes. I'm gonna start out with the big, what is IIH? IIH is also called Idiopathic Intercranial Hypertension, which is why people refer to it as IIH, because that is a mouthful. So the idiopathic part of it is that they don't know. It means literally right up front in the title, we don't know why you are having intracranial hypertension, which means that you have too much fluid inside of your head. So it's also called Pseudo Tumor Cerebri. I sometimes forget that. Part of this condition is that you forget things. The name of that pseudo tumor, I don't know why, but it will not stick inside of my head. So Pseudo Tumor Cerebri is the other name for this condition, meaning that my brain thinks that it has a brain tumor. It does not have a brain tumor, but it thinks it does. So all of the symptoms that you would traditionally associate with a brain tumor, those are the symptoms that I have. So when I went to the doctor, or when I made the original appointments, the symptoms that I've had dizziness since the beginning of January. This is July now. I had several colds at the beginning of this year, kind of back to back. So I would have a cold, I would get better from the cold, I would have another cold, I would get better from that cold. So it was like 3 or 4 colds right in a row. And I was like, what is going on with my immune system? I have no idea what's going on. I tested myself for you know what, and I didn't have that. I never had that at the beginning of this year. I've had it one time. This is 2024 right now. So I did have that in 2022, I believe. So it's been a really long time. Okay, guys? So when I talk about some things later that particular thing was brought up. I'm not going to say it because I don't want this video to be flagged. So the doctor I saw for that, it was not my actual physician. It was a doctor associated with her, because I couldn't actually get an appointment with my doctor. But she said that there was nothing wrong with me. The dizziness must have just been related to all of the colds that I had had, that it was just related to my body just trying to get rid of all of the virus nonsense that was still floating around inside of me. So as soon as I could get rid of all of the junk that was like inside of my head, then I would be fine. So I was trying to wait it out. Meanwhile, the dizziness is getting worse. So fast forward to the end of March, beginning of April, I start having headaches. So then it's the headache that won't go away. Starting about April 1st, 2nd. That's my youngest daughter's birthday is April 2nd. So I make an appointment with my primary care physician. She can't see me until the end of June at the earliest for this particular problem. So it's, weeks, or a couple of weeks. We're getting towards the end of April. I am having lunch with my parents, and my dad says, I have, in my family history, my dad had the same symptoms as you did. He had headaches, he had dizziness that didn't go away. By this time, I had had the same headache, guys, for 3 or 4 weeks. It didn't go away. It varied in severity every day, but I was taking alternating Motrin and ibuprofen, or Motrin and Tylenol around the clock. Never off of the two. So just continuously taking those so that I could just be on my feet, because I have 3 kids. I had to continue to live, right? So in addition to being dizzy almost all of the time as well. So my dad says, my dad had those symptoms. He had a brain tumor, and that's what he passed away from. And I was like, what? So I texted that to my husband. He called the doctor's office, and they were able to get me a telemed visit for the next morning. So I do the telemed visit and failed some of the neurological exams. And she's like, I think you need a CT scan. But I can't schedule a CT scan from a telemed visit. So I'm going to get you a visit in person with your primary care. And I said, well, my primary care can't see me until the end of June. This is like the beginning of April. The end of April, sorry. So then she says, well, I'll see what I can do. I'm going to try to get it for this week sometime. And within 2 days, I had an appointment with her. So I go in, I see my doctor, and she performs the same neurological tests. We get the same result. She's, looking at me, she's talking to me, she's doing all of these tests, and she says, yeah, I think you need a CT scan. We're going to order this stat. We get the CT scan, and within 2 weeks we get the scan set up, and I get in there and get the scan done. The scan shows that I have increased intracranial pressure. So she calls a neurosurgeon friend of hers. He says you need to get her into a neurologist and a neurosurgeon to be seen. So she puts in for that. She puts in the referrals for that. They call me immediately. You guys, this is just, I'm in support groups for this condition. This is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of surreal for me, because this is kind of unheard of as far as what I'm seeing from other people. So if you have this condition and this is not how it's going for you, I don't know how this happened. I feel like this is just wild, and I don't know. I'm just along for this ride. So, I don't know. I feel extremely blessed and privileged to have, for this to have happened this way. Like, it just did. So, we were able to call and get appointments, very quickly. The neurologist we called, my husband happened to be off. We had Disneyland reservations. We live in Southern California. We had Disneyland reservations for a specific day in May, and somebody had canceled their appointment for the day that my husband happened to have off in the middle of the week. And they said, okay, well, we have right now like 20 minutes from now, or we have 3 months from now. And we were like, okay, well, we'll just drive over there right now. We already had our shoes on, ready to go to Disneyland. So it was like literally on our way there. So we were like, well, we'll just be a little bit later to Disneyland. We had the kids come with us. They just put the kids in the next room over from us and let them watch a video in there while we talked to the neurologist, who was amazing and was like, listened to my symptoms, looked at my CT scan, was like, I think you have IIH. Here's some medicine, put me on Topamax. Right away, my primary care physician had put me on something else that I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head because the Topamax makes me forget things. But another headache medication. So she had done the exact right thing. It was helping with the headaches, but it wasn't like knocking them out. So I'm on Topamax. He orders an MRI with orbits. He orders the neuro-ophthalmology exam. And then I also have the visit with the neuro surgeon scheduled. So that was going to be for the next week. So I wait, I go, my husband's like, do you even need this appointment? And I was like, I don't know. We'll just go to all the appointments. We'll see what's going on, because I'm like, I don't even understand this disease. I don't know what's going on. We're going to talk to all the doctors. So we go in the next week, and he says, I think you have IIH based on your scans, based on the other doctor's diagnosis, or, suspected diagnosis, based on these things. We're going to order a lumbar puncture. We're going to order an MRV, an MRA, and, make sure that you go in for the MRI and go in for the neuro-ophthalmology, and then we'll meet up again and we'll talk about what we want to do. Just, keep on with the medications, keep on with all these things. So in the meantime, the headaches are getting worse. So the headaches are getting debilitating now. At the beginning, they weren't so bad. I was handling it okay. The headaches were getting up to maybe like a 6 on the pain scale starting to go to the doctors, right? By this time, I'm saying they're getting up to an 8. And actually, by the time I'm making this video, I've had a couple of days where I've considered going to the emergency room. I have not yet gone to the emergency room, but this past weekend has gotten close. I probably should have gone to the emergency room on Friday night, but I didn't because I'm so stubborn. But anyway, so we do the tests. I will probably post a video. I have done little snippets of me talking to the camera about each visit as they've come up. I will probably post that at some point along the journey. So we did all of the testing, went back to the neurosurgeon. Meanwhile, we've upped the Topamax because the headaches are so bad. And the Topamax is making me so depressed and so crazy, you guys. I do not recommend it. I'm like, you know, in tears the night before I go back to the surgeon going, okay, what if he decides this isn't surgical? What if I have to just stay on this medication for an indefinite amount of time? Because if you have IIH, you know that that's a possibility because with all of the results. So all of the scans show Leah has an IIH, okay? There's lots of pressure that you could see inside of her brain. You could see that there's collapsed veins on the back of her head. You could see the result, okay? But in my LP, they didn't have me go off the medication for the LP, the lumbar puncture. But maybe, I don't know. My opening pressure was 25. Well, that's high for normal people. Normal people would be between 11 and 15. Surgical can be anywhere above 20, but typically 25 is on the low end of an IIH diagnosis. They typically see people above 30 for surgery. So I am on the low end of that. Also, when I went for my ophthalmology appointment, he didn't see any swelling of my optic nerve, which is great for me personally. But when you're thinking about, does this person need surgery? A lot of IIH patients would not be given the opportunity to have surgery at this point. So my concern was that I would be stuck with this medication and that I'd be stuck deciding, do I stay crazy or do I live in pain? So, well, stay crazy and in a little bit of pain, or do I, you know, not be crazy and be living in this bed for all of my days? So these were the things that were like rattling around inside of my pressurized head the night before my appointment. So we go in. I brought my mom and my husband with me that day, and he says, I want to do the surgery. So very first thing, you know, so that took a huge load off my mind. So, but the thing is, we have to do an angiogram first. So we're gonna do an angiogram. They're gonna call me, today is Sunday, they're gonna call me on Monday or Tuesday to schedule the angiogram. The reason we're doing an angiogram first is because there are two different surgeries that can be done for this condition to alleviate the pressure. So because, like I said before, I have too much fluid in my head, it's not draining is the problem. So my body is continually making the fluid, but it's not draining out of my head. So because I have the narrowed vessels in the back of my head, they can do a stent procedure, and the angiogram is to decide if I qualify for that. So if the stent is not going to cause the fluid to drain, then we are not going to do that procedure because it won't help me. So obviously, any kind of surgery we do, we want it to ultimately help the problem and not just be another procedure that we do. The other reason for the angiogram is that I have a small aneurysm behind my left eye. That was a bonus. We weren't looking for the aneurysm, we just found it on on the MRA that was ordered. So when we found out about the narrowed artery on the back of my neck, or the back of my head, we also saw that there is an aneurysm here. It is small. It is probably going to be fine for now. But while they're looking at all of the things here to decide if they're going to do the stent surgery, they're going to also check out all of the anatomy of that aneurysm behind my eye to see if we need to do anything about it right now. So praise the Lord for that. It's not going to be a fun procedure, but I am willing to do it. So that is the stent procedure or the stent surgery is the less invasive procedure. It's one where they can go up through an artery to place the little metal tube in the area that they would need to use to drain. None of that is technical, but you know, it would drain the fluid. It would open up the artery, be able to drain the fluid, get blood to and from my brain the way that it needs to go, get the fluid out of my head the way it needs to be, if that is what needs to happen. If it's not going to help, then we're not doing that. If that is not the procedure we do, we'll do the big open surgery, which is the more invasive one, which is the shunt surgery. The shunt surgery is I don't want to say the one we don't want to do, because I want to do whatever surgery is going to actually help this to be better, because this is not good, guys. This has been really awful. I've not been so sick ever in my life. So the shunt surgery is going to require shaving my head. The shunt surgery is going to require incisions and holes drilled in my skull here, and well, it'll be on this side here and here. They'll put a tube and one in my stomach. They'll put an incision in my stomach. They'll put a tube. There'll be a tube inside of my head. It'll go down into my brain, and there'll be somewhere. I'm not entirely sure. But there will be a valve that they can control with a magnet for how much pressure that they relieve, how much fluid they release. So the tube will go from my brain all the way down through my neck and through my abdomen, or down into my abdomen, to let the fluid out, not into my stomach, but around the stomach area. So, and then it'll just absorb into my body. So it's a big deal surgery. And there are pros and cons for both. I will research them and at some point probably do a video about both surgeries, but you can see why the stent surgery is the less invasive, therefore easier to recover from, and more appealing one at this point. But like I said, I want to do the one that is going to actually be the most helpful in my circumstances. So my doctor seems to think that the stent will help, but we have to do the angiogram first to make sure that that is actually true, and we can get a good look at the aneurysm while we're in there. So that is all of the information I believe that I have right now. So let me just go through the list of symptoms maybe for IIH, so you guys kind of can get an idea of what the deal is with it. So we have the dizziness and headaches that I talked about. So the headaches can vary day to day depending on how high my pressure is, from anywhere from a 1 all the way up to a 10. the dizziness also can vary in severity. I see spots around my, like in my vision all the time. It looks like, I'll show you guys because I was like wearing glittery Converse today. So I took a video in the car of what the glitter does when the sun hits it, but this is kind of what my field of vision looks like all of the time, only a little more dense. It looks like this, and sometimes I get tunnel vision with it, and that's not cool. So I am exhausted all the time and want to sleep so much. I am cranky a lot. I think that is some of that is due to the medication, but I also am forgetful. I have to reach for words a lot. Hey friends, editing Leah real quick. So forgetfulness is definitely one of those symptoms, but I forgot one of the main symptoms is pulsating tinnitus, which I actually have had in my right ear, the side with the headaches, for 9 years. And that was actually the symptom that started it all, not the symptom that took me to the doctors for these symptoms, but I have been to the doctor before and they said there was nothing that they could do for that. But when I went to the surgeon for IIH, he was like, oh, you don't have to live like that. We can do something about that. And I was like, what? So anyway, hopefully that will be going away after the surgery happens. So anyway, that was a big one. And I don't know how I forgot about that, but pulsating tinnitus, hearing my own heartbeat, was a definite symptom of IIH. But yeah, I think that's most of it. If you have IIH and you want to add to the symptoms, I would love for you to do that in the comments. Sorry guys, I'm like in my room and the sun is like trying to go down, and so I'm like seeing like the spots on my face, but I think that's it. If you guys have any questions about IIH, if I don't know them, I will find them out, because honestly, like, I'd love to know the answers to all of the things also. But my doctors, like I said, I'm in Southern California. My doctors, I've had to kind of travel around a little bit, but my doctors are with Loma Linda University Hospital, I will say that. So if you're looking for a great bunch of doctors, I would highly, highly recommend that group, because like I said, all of this has happened like so fast. They're taking it so seriously. So I would highly, highly recommend all of them. And anyway, I'm hoping to raise a little bit of awareness for this disease. Just to give you guys a clue as to how rare it is, only 1 out of 100,000 people has idiopathic intracranial hypertension. And so not that many people even know about it. Until I actually was diagnosed with it, I didn't even know about it. So I never heard that term before in my life. So if you have IIH and you're looking for people to connect with you or something like that, there are Facebook support groups that I have found to be really helpful and informative. If you just search IIH in the Facebook search bar or idiopathic intracranial hypertension, I have joined the two that have the most members, and have found them to be extremely helpful and supportive. So there are people like us out there. It doesn't feel like it. A lot of the time, it feels like nobody really understands. People just think, oh, you just have headaches, you just have migraines, you just have whatever. It's not just. It really feels like you're dying. And I get it. So, anyway, also, if you really need somebody, reach out. My email address is in the description box. I am happy to connect with you if you need somebody right away. If there's, I I understand how lonely and disconnected you can feel with this disease. So don't let yourself get so miserable and so down that you let it take over. Don't let it get you. So I am here. Even if you think, she's just a face on the internet. I'm not. So I care. Anyway, that is it from me for this video. I hope that this was informative, helpful, not too scary for those of you who actually know me. I am fine. I'm still smiling. See. I am just really, really thankful that I'm just really thankful that I'm being taken seriously right now. Like, that's like the big thing, is that I feel like there are a lot of things that could have gone differently, and somehow they all went the way that they all went the way they needed to for things to line up to get treated quickly. And coming from a homeschool mom's perspective, if you are new here in this space, my YouTube handle is homeschool at heart. I homeschool my 3 kids, and this is summertime, and this is the perfect time for this to have happened, for the full force of this to have happened, and for all of the appointments to need to have happened. We are not schooling this summer. We're just taking a break because that's what I need. But the surgery may happen in September, which is fine, but most of the things will have occurred during our break time, and that's I feel like such a God thing, and I'm really, really thankful for that. And to those of you who are probably thinking, wow, she's doing really well with all of this, that is not always the case. I am not always this positive. You can ask my husband, you can ask my best friend. I am not this positive most days. In fact, there are a lot of days where I lay in this bed and cry because this is so hard. But God is still good, and this is not as bad as it could be, even though it's pretty bad and it's really hard. I'm not gonna lie, this has been the trial of my life, and it's not as bad as a lot of people have it. So I will continue to share with you guys. If you're not interested in that content, you can feel free to skip it. Hopefully you won't just leave my channel altogether. I will not make it into the IIH channel. But since this is a thing that's going on in my life, I do feel like I want to share about it. So I'll be sharing about that as we continue on with life and homeschooling and how all of this is gonna be affecting that, because this is not gonna go away. Post-surgery, it's going to hopefully get better, but it is a lifetime of struggling with this condition or disease or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a lovely week. I love you all, and I will talk to you in my next video.